Today's story is about a man possessed of a gigantic vision. Masayoshi Son, the founder of Softbank. Sometimes his bold and daring investments tank, but more often than not, they have brought him immense wealth and widespread recognition. And we are going to talk today mostly about his payoffs and falls in India. This is Shakir Ibrahim and you're watching BISBO's business channel. Masayoshi Son has always been a maverick, wanting to go down in history as, and I quote, the crazy guy who bet on the future, and on which he bet an audacious $100 billion in 2017, aptly calling it the Vision Fund, at a time when a $50 million investment raised eyebrows.
So when you told people you were going to raise a $100 billion fund, did they tell you you were a little crazy?
Well, some people said.
His conviction to bet large amounts came from a $50 million take-home in 2014 from a $20 million bet on Jack Ma's Alibaba way back in 2000. However, it's not always been smooth sailing for the visionary. Last year, 2023, after the WeWork and Paytm fiascos, people started questioning his choice of investments when Softbank's investee companies were in a free fall. This affected his credibility so much that both Saudi Arabia's sovereign fund and Abu Dhabi's Mubadala both refused to put their money in his second vision fund. But how spectacularly he redeemed himself with the recent listings of Ola Electric, First Cry and Unicommerce when they rewarded him with a $10 billion crown. And with several big IPOs on the way like Swiggy, Lenskart, Meesho and Off Business, Son seems to have regained his golden touch. Son's style of investment is to take huge bets, sometimes risky and often on gut feel. Take the 1990s dot-com boom for example. Softcom invested so heavily in Silicon Valley that at its peak, he owned as much as 25% of cyberspace and had a total market cap of $180 billion at the time. But within a decade, lost over 90%, wiping out $70 billion of his personal wealth. Or look at WeWork, where Son backed the office space provider even against the advice of his own team, costing Softbank over $14 billion. In India, he wrote off over $1 billion in Snapdeal and Oyo, and on the merger of Housing.com, where it had invested close to $85 million. He lost a somewhat more modest $544 million on one of his biggest bets, Paytm, on exit post-listing. But he was humble enough to maturely accept his mistakes and change his investment style. From investing in high-valued $5 billion plus companies to late-stage minority stakes in companies valued under $2 billion but with substantial and muted investments, ranging between $200 to $400 million in the likes of Policy Bazaar and First Cry. This time, fortune was on his side, as India was on the verge of a boom. So he diversified the portfolio to EdTech and SaaS-based startups with investments in Unacademy and Mindticket. Finally, he swung back to profits for the first time in 5 quarters for his Vision Fund 1, when he made around $2 billion by selling stakes in Zomato, Policy Bazaar and Delivery after they went public. Even his conviction in Oyo back in 2015 proved rewarding after it posted its first ever post-tax profit of 229 crore in FY24. Last year, he did an Elon Musk, who by the way is the only other person we can think of who has his kind of vision. But Elon only invests in his own companies. So coming back to how Masayoshi did a Musk, in 2023, Son handed over his operations to a handpicked CFO and announced he would skip earning calls to focus on his semiconductor bet, ARM Holdings, just like how Musk went to work full-time at Twitter X to safeguard and grow his investment. Masayoshi's magic worked, and Softbank's 90% stake in the company was valued at $105 billion in 2024, exceeding even Softbank's own $73 billion valuation. Masayoshi's first investment in India was in InMobi, and since then, he has funded nearly a fifth of India's 100+ unicorns, with his total investment in India exceeding $15 billion. And despite the recent meltdown, it seems that big vision-funded startups are here to stay.